Hey guys, today I'm going to be making homemade butter. We get milk from a local farmer. It's just raw milk that's unpasteurized. And I got this 3 days ago. So it has been sitting in the fridge for about 3 days now, and in the jars, when it sits in the fridge, it starts to separate. So you can see a line, it's about right here, where it's a lot more white and creamier, and down here is a little more like a milk, like translucent-y white color. I mean, it's still pretty, it's not like skim milk translucent, but the cream definitely separates to the top. So what I do is, I'm gonna be using my mixing bowl to make it, so I'm just gonna scoop the cream right into the mixing bowl. So I open my jars, and it is very thick. I normally don't let it sit in the fridge for 3 days. Overnight is usually about as long as it gets before we have to get the cream out to make the butter and then start using the milk. But we let it set for 3 days, and it is thick, very thick. So I'm just gonna scoop the top off, scoop all that cream down to where the line is, and put it in my mixer, my mixing bowl. When I let it set overnight, I usually get about a cup of cream per half gallon. I already have, like, each of these is a half gallon. So I already did a half gallon before I started the video. So I have 3 more half gallons. So in total, we'll be doing the cream from 2 gallons worth of milk. I have a friend that likes to use the cream from the top in her coffee in place of creamer. She says that it's really good. And you could use this to make ice cream. I have a recipe to make ice cream, but I haven't tried it yet. I believe it's actually a keto ice cream. I can start to see the thinner milk start to mix in with the cream as I skim it off, and I'm getting down towards the bottom of the cream. What we're left with, and I'll pop this in the fridge. And then every time that we go to use the milk, because it does separate, you want to make sure you give it a shake because it mixes it up and makes it not just the cream coming out first and then you're left with thinner milk. I'll show you closer up on this one. You can see the line of the cream versus the thinner milk. So the cream separates to the top and then the milk is on the bottom. This is really thick, really thick. This is gonna be some good butter. I started making homemade butter and you don't yield as much butter as, we don't yield enough butter by making it ourselves as we go through as a family. So whenever we run out of homemade butter, the kids are always, they can tell a difference in the taste. There's definitely a different taste. My husband tried them side by side and he said that this butter tastes more real and creamier and richer, whereas store-bought butter just tastes like oil. Last half gallon. Super thick. I'm gonna say that's about good. That's about how much cream we got out of it. I'm gonna let it sit here and warm up and then we're gonna start making butter. I've let the cream sit out for about a half an hour now. It's still cold, but it's definitely warmer than just straight out of the fridge. We're gonna start mixing it though. And I put my splash guard on just because it's all liquid and you turn it up pretty high and it does splash out at you. So I just have my whisk attachment on my mixer. And you just want to slowly start to bring the speed up. I'm going to leave it at a 4 for a couple minutes and then I'm going to check on it. And once it becomes almost like a whipped cream, we're going to turn the speed up even higher. I like to cover mine with a cloth just to keep all of the splashing in. Okay, so we have successfully turned it into a thick cream, like a thick whipped cream. The consistency, let me get... The consistency is almost like a whipped topping. So that's good. Now we're going to put this back on and I'm going to slowly bring the speed up to full speed on my mixer. And you might need to come in and just scrape down the sides of your bowl just to push all that back in. definitely starting to turn into butter. But I think it needs a little bit more mixing. A little bit longer. While that's finishing up, I got my bowl of ice water ready to go for when this is done. Okay, so our butter is definitely done. I grabbed some parchment paper. And I'm gonna get my piece of parchment paper ready. This is very greasy to work with, so you want to try to have everything you need out and ready because your hands will get very greasy as you work with the butter. So I have my ice water, I have my parchment paper, and I'm just gonna remove my shield. It's definitely.
Take it.
And I'm gonna pull that up, and there's butter.
Huh?
There's some butter.
Huh?
What?
Huh?
What?
Huh? What? Well,
What?
why?
All of the cream that's splashed up. So our mixer needs a really good cleaning, but we have our butter and our buttermilk. We definitely have our butter and our buttermilk. So what you want to do is you want to reach in and you want to grab all of the butter. And that's how much butter I got from it.
Cold.
There's a little bit more in here I'll scoop out. So you want to take all your butter and you want to squeeze all of that liquid out of it.
Huh?
Huh?
Well,
Squeeze all of all the buttermilk out.
Okay.
Okay, can you do that for me?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna keep moving it around, squeezing all of the butter, squeezing the butter, moving it all around, getting all that milk out of it.
Empty more. Empty more.
You want more milkies? Okay, I'll get you more. And your hands definitely get super buttery, super greasy from the fat. But then once you feel like you have all the milk squeezed out of it, you're going to transfer it right into your ice water. And I like to just press it together. And that's just making it more, less of like a softened butter and more of a solid feeling. And then I'm going to put it right on my parchment paper, and I like to wash my hands. So that's our butter, and you can use the butter. Butter.
Yeah.
You can mix salt into it. You could mix different seasonings into it. I personally like to shape it into a rectangle and put salt on top, like a thick, coarse sea salt on top. But then you want to store it in the fridge, either in an airtight container or wrapped in parchment paper, and it stays good for about 10 to 14 days. I like to also keep my buttermilk I'll put it in a mason jar and pop it in the fridge to make buttermilk biscuits, or other recipe you have that calls for buttermilk. You can use this. I hope you enjoyed making butter with us today. Subscribe to see what we get into next.